Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, my name is Professor Gaurav Bhomik from the IIT Kharagpur. So in today's lecture, in the module of when we'll be discussing about the technology of crustacea farming. So the lecture material for this today's class will be like on the basis of crab culture. Okay. So this is an integrated part of this advanced aquaculture technologies of course that we are learning through this NPTEL curriculum. So the concepts that I will be covering in this particular lecture material is the introduction to the crab farming, the Scylla species of the mud crab, and the methods of culturing of mud crab. Only the first two will be discussing right now in this particular lecture module. In the next lecture, I will be discussing more the other methods of culturing mud crabs as well. So mostly I will be focusing on grow out culture and the fattening procedure in this lecture, and we will be discussing about the other methods in the coming lecture material. So before starting about in details about the crab culture, I think you already know that among all the edible marine crustaceans, this crabs is very famous. It's almost in the third position just after shrimps and lobsters because of its delicacy, because of its specific taste, and not only in India but also all over the world, like especially if you go to Europe and Southeastern Asian region. It's very famous all over there. It's very famous. This crab. It's a different species of crab actually. So most of the commercially important crab species, they belongs to the family Portunidae. Okay, and are recognized by the presence of flattened last pair of leg, and which assists them to swim along in the columnar water, like not in the bottom or not in the surface, but in the columnar water. Okay. So most of the most widely cultured species in the Southeastern Asia is like Scylla species, as I told, and also there is E. sinensis, which is also called the river crab, which is mainly cultured in China and Korea. So the things that we'll be discussing in my lecture series, it will be mostly on the mud crab or the Scylla species only. Okay. The Scylla species, especially the Scylla serrata, it's a commercially important crab species found in most of the estuaries and the mangrove region in India. In general, the crabs are produced, they are normally sold either live or in the frozen condition to the market, and it is transported by amphibians or maintained in the same tank used for holding the other crustaceans like lobsters and all. Okay. The species that I will be mainly discussing on because of its importance, because of its availability and the market demand is the Scylla species, as I already told. It is also known as mangrove crab, green crab, or the mud crab. Okay. Its mainly its mainly dwelling region is the Southeastern Asia, Mauritius, these places. It normally requires the temperature range between 23 to 30 degrees Celsius and the salinity range between 18 to 34 ppt. If you see this life cycle of crab, this Scylla species, so mature crab, when they lay the egg, so after say like it reaches the Joan stage, okay, so it goes for 4 to 7 instars, and which has a duration of total of 12 to 24 days, and it metamorphoses to the megalopa stage. Okay, in the megalopa stage, it stays for like around 5 to 7 days. From there, it turns into the fast crab stage. In the fast crab stage, it stays like that for like around 4 to 8 months, and even sometimes more, depending upon the specific environment and the food availability and all these things, and then it grows to the mature crab stage. Okay, so this is how their life cycle looks like. So in general, this mud crab, Scylla species, can be of two types. Okay, like it can be of different other types as well, especially in Indian brackish water region. We find two types of mud crabs in general. One is Scylla tranquibarica, okay, which has a maximum size of up to 2.3 kg. So it's like really huge. Okay, so and it has a size of around 220 millimeter of nominal size, and it can be characterized by the polygonal marking, different polygonal marking on its celifats, walking and the swimming legs. Okay. So the wrist of this celifats has two spines on its outer margin. That is also a distinguishable feature for this kind of Scylla species, Scylla tranquibarica. It normally we normally find them like in the buried under the mud on the or the soil. Okay, you can abundantly find them in the coastal lakes, open inshore sea, backwaters, etc. regions. The other one is Scylla serrata. I'll discuss about it in just in the next slide only. So here, if you see this clearly distinguishable features between these two type of crabs. First one, the A is like top and bottom is like top view of the Scylla tranquibarica, and the bottom one is the dorsal view of bottom view of the Scylla tranquibarica. The same in the right side, it's a Scylla serrata. It has, if you see the left side in this Scylla species tranquibarica, they have this specific polygonal structure in its swimming legs and also its cephalus. So in case of Scylla serrata, they do not have this kind of structure in their body. So these polygonal markings are missing in this kind of structure. And also, what is the major distinguishable characteristics, like maximum sizes can be only 0.7 kg. It doesn't go as high as the tranquibarica. Okay, it has a nominal size of around 140 millimeter, and the wrist of this celifats has one blunt spine on the outer margin. So it can be found very deeply burrowed on the bottom of the estuaries or in earthen burned on the pond and canals. It can be abundantly found in the mangrove areas. Okay. So in general, the mud crab farming, it started in India during the early 80s. Okay, and it normally cultured in Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Kerala, and Odisha. Only in this eastern belt, the major portion of it is cultured in the eastern belt, eastern coastal area, and even in Kerala as well. Generally, the color of their shell varies from the deep molted green to the dark brown, and even depending upon that also we can say how like delicious the species can be, depending upon the color of their shell and all these things. In general, if you see the egg mass, or we call it sponge, how it looks like, how they carry it with this, and see the black color of this sponge or the egg mass, what we call it, it is indicating that the hatching is imminent. That means it is going to hatch very soon. Okay, and you see the crablets, how it looks like, this Scylla serrata crablets. This is very small, and they are just after the hatching is done. So mud crabs, they are of huge interest due to its high demand and price, and the rapid growth rate in captivity, and high flesh content, and also its particular taste. And also because of this region, this is a very prominent crab species that can be cultured in Indian context. And I would really prefer, like whoever is like watching this video right now, so to go and find out more details about this mud crabs and all, and also you can ask the experts. And if you know, like there are a lot of employability opportunity on this kind of mud crab culture in Indian context, especially if you're staying near to the coastal region, say in this Sundarban belt or this Digha, Mohana and all these things. If you go to the Odisha, the major portion of the Odisha is actually very much effective for culturing this kind of mud crabs and all. It gives you a lot of export value to India as well. But still it is not utilized as it can be, as the opportunity lies here. But so yeah, there are a lot of opportunity for this, for the young entrepreneurs like you to go ahead and go for this kind of mud crab farming. So it can survive out of water for a week, which is like good thing about it, because if you just sprinkle it water occasionally just to keep them cool and moist, it can survive for up to a week. So you don't have to worry about the transportation worry, like most of the cases the vegetables and the fish that we talk about, it's very much perishable, and what happened during the transportation, only majority of the product is getting lost. We somehow it lose its actual taste, actual the order, or like actual the shape. But in case of crab, that is the good thing, like, because it can go for almost 1 week without water and all. It can go and it can survive it. So you can simply transport it from one place to another, even in India, even outside India as well, if you have a proper transportation system ready, supply chain system ready for you. In general, there are some vernacular names for the smart crabs. In Bengali, we call it Nona kakra or Samudra kakra. We Marathi, it has different name. So these are the name. In Telugu, it called Manda Pita and all these things. So there are in different places the same this crab has different vernacular names for like with which it is normally famous. A total of 3,500 tons of mud crabs are caught annually in India, according to the recent study. And in brackish water, almost 2,000, almost like more than almost 80%, 75% of it is done in the brackish water. Whereas in marine region, it is done like around proper marine regions around 1,000 tons or so. In 1987, around 1,500 tons of live mud crabs are exported annually, and its valuation stands around 30 crores in 1987. Very recent data is missing right now. So we are like working on it recently, like maybe by the end of this year, people will be like, you will be able to get the information about the exact valuation right now, what is standing about the mud crab cultivation and its valuation, its export valuation. They are in general omnivorous in nature. You know what is omnivorous, like they can have the vegetation, they can have the animals, like they are not exactly herbivorous or not carnivorous, they are both. They are okay with both, okay. But they normally try to have the feed, they try to have as a food the remnant of fish, crustaceans, mollusks, the plants or the detritus found in the natural environment. They normally have it. So if you supply it with the more amount of animal protein and all, so they grow very fast. In general, we saw it in the research lab. They often get infested by, but there's some problems associated with this kind of farming as well, like because they can be easily infested by the parasites like acorn barnacles and the goose barnacles and all. But there are procedures to get rid of it as well, to do the troubleshooting for this kind of, or I would say like the disease controlling systems as well that is available, okay. So if you see the breeding of mud crab in India, if you see the locality wise, the period and the peak season, the southern coast of India, mainly the Kerala region. So there the peak season is September to February, and you can grow it like throughout the year. All over India, it is possible to grow them throughout the year, but the peak season is like some particular time when the number of outcome production goes very high, and which can be utilized for export purpose as well, because it can definitely fulfill the internal demand and then it can go for the external market and all. In the Karwar regions, in the Tuticorin region, Lake Palikat, Kakinada region. So all these regions are there where normally we have this breeding of mud crab, and when the peak season varies place to place. So in general, there are different methods for mud crab farming, okay. So this lecture, today's lecture, will only, like in this particular lecture matter, will only be discussed about the two of them. Let's start with the grow out culture, okay. In case of grow out culture, the young crabs are grown in a period for like say 5 to 6 months in this method till a desirable size is attained. And the grow out systems, the mud crab is actually they are usually the culture is done in the pond normally, with or without the mangrove, with a size of around 0.2 to 5 hectare. You know what is hectare, right? 1 hectare is 10 to the power 4 or like 10,000 square meter, okay. So it's like around 2.5 acre. So the ponds are fitted with the proper bounds and the tidal water exchange. So then that when the tidal level will high, like when it will reach the high tide, the sea water will come into your pond and it will provide you with the fresh seawater, So and then you have to have a discharge canal. So when the low tide situation will happen, so the drainage, you can open the drainage canal and you can open the sluice gate for the drainage canal. So water will go back to the sea again. So you have to design your tide from accordingly. So based on the highest high tide level and the lowest low tide level, you can have the seawater exchange in your pond. Fencing is obviously advisable because like they can crawl around, so they will definitely be, you can definitely lose them. So better to have a proper fencing around in this grow out culture systems. Larger pond, you have to pond strengthening is very crucial along with the outlet area, and for stocking wild juvenile crabs are actually used, which is not good, which is not actually detrimental. One of the major reason, because we are actually catching, like somehow we are reducing the population in the wild, I mean like wild population in the natural environment, because we have to this is the problem. For the propagation method, we have to collect the wild juvenile crabs of around like 10 to 100 gram size in general. Okay, and like culture duration 3 to 6 months. Okay, and in general they took around 3 to 6 months. This is the mud crab grow out pond, how it looks like, and this is the earthen mud crab pond culture with the netting. See the nets, you can see the nets, the simple net structure. It prevents the mud crab to crawl around and go out of the pond area. So in general, the stocking density are of 1 to 3 crabs per square meter we provide. Supplementary feeding is required, which comprises of mainly the trash fish and all. Always remember, you have to provide at least 5 to 10% of the biomass as a feed per day. What do I mean? What does that mean actually? Suppose you have a crab of around like say 100 kg in your pond. Okay, so every day you have to provide at least 5 kg of feed to your biomass, to your to your culture species. That is like kind of mandatory. So at least 5 to 10% of its biomass of the culture species has to be provided as a feed every day. Okay, the feed can differ. Feed can be anything, like right from the rotifier when it is like very small, can be Artemia nucleus when it is like reaches a certain stage. At the end, you can provide them with the trash fish, trash bivalves. You can provide them with the there are a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of animal based proteins that you can supply it with, depending upon the availability and all. So in general, the partial harvesting can be done when market size crab they reached around at the end of 3rd month. And the monitoring of, you have to properly monitor for their general health, growth rate, and the adjustment of the feeding rate. Regular sampling is very necessary, because you won't be able to understand like what is its feed demand, because you have to after every 7 to 10 days you put them out randomly, collect say like 10 or 20 pieces of them and weigh it, and because as per the calculation you can find out the total average, you can easily get the average their biomass per like average biomass, and you multiply it with the total number of crabs that you are culturing there, and just supply it, and 5% of it will be the feed. So based on that you supply them with the feed. Okay. So partial harvesting or the stock thinning of ensures that the better chances of survival by reducing the cannibalism and the mutual attack. So what does it mean? What is cannibalism and the mutual attack? Sometimes what happens, so when sometimes they reach a higher stage of their growth system. Okay, so if by somehow you provide them with the minimum amount of food, and because of their natural habituation, okay, so what they do, they will go and attack the other crabs and all. So this is how it works. So when this is called the cannibalism or the mutual attacks. So in order to reduce that, we need to go for partial harvesting sometimes in this kind of culture systems. So what is the second method that we can discuss today? It's like the flattening. Okay, after molting is done, the crab muscularity needs some time to grow its fill to its new shell, right? So the crab at this stage is called the thin empty or the water crab. What does that mean? So it means like when it reaches say around we need 5 months for particular crab species to grow. Okay, so at the end of 4 months it almost reaches its harvesting market size, its market size. However, their meat concentration is not like or at its optimum level. So though their shell is formed, it is thin, and however the meat portion is not actually sufficient enough or not actually fully grown enough. So by looking, by your naked eye, we can think that it is done, so it is already in the market size, let's just harvest them and we use them. No, don't do this. In this fattening method, what we do, so we like try to grow for this, we go for this, we call this process as a empty or the thin crabs. It's in general we identify them and then we harvest them, like use for another after a few weeks, okay, until they are full of meat and ready to be actually marketed. It involves with rearing of the soft celled crab for a few weeks till the hardening of the exoskeleton, and the produced hard crabs are commonly known as the actual mud, okay. So it usually it pays around 3 to 4 times more price than the soft crabs, just because their amount of meat that is available there, right. So in case of mud, or like the final stage, when it reaches its hard crab stage, now it's become more costlier, and just you need to wait for a couple of weeks and to keep it in that stage, okay. So in general, how this fattening is done, or fattening, from the word itself you can understand like why it is called fattening, okay. So fattening is normally done in a small tidal ponds of size of around 0.25 to 0.2 hectare and a water depth of around 1 to 1.5 meter. The bottom of the pond is prepared before stocking of the soft crab by draining the water, followed by sun drying and the addition of lime to get rid of all the unwanted microorganisms, or say like predators, or there is a less chance of a predator, but still the unwanted unhygienic like microorganisms and all, okay. So in order to do that, we first get rid of all the water. After we get rid of the water, we sun dry the bottom of the pond, and then we put the lime layer in it, okay. Then we strengthen all the pond bunds to remove all the holes and the crevices, so that it cannot pass through it. The sluice area is properly taken care of to prevent the escape of these crabs through the sluice gate, and the inlet area are reinforced using the bamboo matting inside the bund, okay. So in order to go for further enhanced structural stability and all. Proper fencing is done to prevent the escape of crabs. We can use the bamboo poles and net inclined towards the pond over the sides of the bund. So what will happen, it will be like this. Suppose this is the pond, so the bund the fencing will be like this towards the pond side, okay. So and it will be inclining towards the pond side. The soft crabs are stocked in the pond usually in the morning hours, say like 0.5 to 2 crabs per square meter. That will be the stocking density depending upon the size of the crab, okay. Stocking density for producing crabs like say 500 gram is around 1 crab per square centimeter or square meter. As I mentioned, like depending upon the size, it can vary from 0.5 to 2 crabs per square meter, okay. So in general, 6 to 8 cycles of fattening can be carried out in a pond based on the location and the availability of the water crabs, and by repetitive stocking and harvesting, okay. See, this is the individual container for mud crab fattening. So in general, in this kind of in case of big culture pond, the pond is split into different partitions of suitable size for stocking uniformly sized crabs within the same compartment. Then the stocking on the basis of sex within the compartments is better and reduces the attack of the aggressive male crabs. So you know, you put a proper compartment for the male crabs, proper compartments for the female crabs. So because of that, there will be no competition for a female crabs between 2 male crabs, and it will cause the cannibalism, as I mentioned, or the mutual attacks, okay. You can provide the shelter using the old tiles, bamboo baskets, etc., to minimize the cannibalism or the mutual attacks, okay. In general, the pen or in a cages also we can do this kind of fattening process, okay. So mainly if we talk about the marine culture, because earlier we were discussing about the fattening in the pond, that means which is in the coastal region, you are kind of depending upon the tidal movement, the diurnal tidal movement of the sea. So based on that, your freshwater, your seawater exchange can be happen. But in case of pen and cage, you don't have to worry about the seawater exchange, right? Because it involves the fattening of the crabs in pens and bamboo cages, or the floating net cages, or shallow estuarine waterways, which we can call it as a pen, or within the large stream ponds having the good tidal water influx and all. Bamboo splits, high density polyethylene or nylon can be used as a netting material. In this kind of cases, preferable size of the cage, if it is a cage culture, should be around 3 by 2 by 1 meter of size, so around 6 cubic meter volume, with a row size arrangement of the cage for easy feeding and the monitoring you have to provide, and then stocking density can be as high as 10 crabs per square meter and 5 crabs per square meter for even for the pen culture, which definitely increases your productivity. So, from these two culture methods that we discussed, so what are the conclusions that we can come up with? So, we discuss about the culture of crustaceans like crab and the brief introduction of their life cycle. We discuss about the commercially important crab species, that is mud crab. We discuss about the fattening, and actually fattening is more advantageous method among the two that we have discussed because of its it is a shorter and more profitable culture period. In India, the grow out culture is not popular much, mainly due to the non availability of the crab seeds and the commercial feed. So, what are the takeaway messages that you can have from this lecture? Among all the edible marine crustaceans, crabs occupy the third position because of its delicacy, demand and price. So, only because just after the shrimp and lobsters, though sometimes it depends upon the people. Sometimes like people like me, I do like crabs more than the lobsters and all. So yeah, so it has a very huge demand. The Scylla serrata is mainly very famous crab species that is found in the Indian estuary and the coastal region mostly, and it is highly farmed in the states of Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Kerala and Odisha. However, there is a huge opportunity for it to grow further. So, this kind of culture species, this kind of culture, there are culture methods are already available. There are scientific discussions are going on, like how to increase the production of this kind of crab species in the end, and I already discussed about, like, you get a point, like if you go for pen culture, if you go for a cage culture, you can increase the production very much, and which will give you much higher economic revenue, because it will give you a less design constraint, less land acquisition and all. Other than that, first of all, India is having almost 7,500 kilometer of long 7,500 kilometer of long coastal region, which is like around 2 million square kilometer of exclusive economic zone, where any Indian citizen with the proper permission and all, you can go and do the business in this region. So, there is a ample opportunity. That is what I always talk about, like these things are very basic stuffs that we are discussing, but there is a lot of opportunities lies in the market, in the outside. If you go outside and you just start doing business, start working on it, think about it, how to increase the profitability further, and there are a lot of scientific research available. There are experts available in India itself. So, you just talk to them, decide like how to grow your own business ideas, how to grow your own entrepreneurship mindset on this kind of activities, on this kind of culture things and all. Okay. So, it is like in general mud crabs are using we discuss about the methods like grow out culture and fattening in this lecture. However, in the next lecture material, I will be discussing more about what are the other methods that are available for culturing of crab species in India, but not only in India, but outside India as well, in this specifically for this kind of mud crabs and all. Okay. So, these are the references that you can take a picture, or you can just go and Google it, and it will give you some additional information about all this all the stuff that I have discussed, and you can be more, it will be give you a lot of knowledge about what exactly is happening in the mud crab farming in Indian context as well as in international context. Okay. So, that is it. So, thank you so much. Maybe you get to know some very valuable information regarding the mud crab. So, we will discuss more in details in the next lecture. Thank you.